Well, I'll just always remember Blues as the guy I get into nuke wars with, because, oh boy.
I'm in.
When we both found Scavenger, it's a bad game for everyone.
Hopefully you're in the game too.
I'm in the game too, so hello everyone. Welcome to game number 2 in week number 4 of our FFA community tournament. This time we've got AndreasG taking the last round. This is going to be a rematch between these 4 players, Blues, Yerand, and Pollina, all participating with pretty high prices. Man, I mean, oxygen, fuel, steel, chems, electronics, that's a nice starting set.
Very high prices. Everybody's glad that glass is 80 though. And because we do have expansive scavengers, nomads. Well, I guess nomads are electronics. We probably won't be seeing them. And elite.
Shouldn't see nomads this time. Look, I see all this. I'm kind of wanting to go scavenger if I can get away with it. But there's only one real good scavenger spot on this map. There is another one that's functional though, and that one might be more tempting. It's got good water, good aluminum nearby.
Yeah, I definitely go for that one maybe right about now and see if I can make it work. There are no nukes, so that's always nice as a scavenger. No bribe claims though, so you're going to want to go fast. All these players must be seeing more founding spots than I am because they're waiting a long time. AndreasG is going to go for an expansive first right over here in all of this water and iron. Then we had, let's see, who did found next? Pollina.
Our 2 expansives landed first.
Right on that water patch. And then 2 scavengers. Yerand
HQ has been upgraded.
Going for what I would have thought would be the worst scavenger found, but he doesn't have to no, I guess it's about the same, and he doesn't have to ship his carbon.
I mean, the advantage that he has, I think in particular, he's close to the colony, which interestingly enough can be an advantage at times, but he's also closer to the silicon. There was not a lot of silicon available on this map, and he's going to be a little bit closer to it than Blues is, who landed last. Of course, gets that extra claim right now to see if he can kickstart his economy.
Yeah, if I'm Andreas, I'd like to pick up that one high silicon right now just to claim it for the long term, because I believe that's the only high silicon on the map.
Yeah, he did land near the silicon, but of course was landing right next to the iron to make sure he could get steel online. Very important for both of our steel consumers to be making plenty of steel in a game where it starts 120. It can be an advantage, only if you use it correctly though. I do agree. AndreasG, he's got 3 claims left. Slap 1 on iron, 1 on silicon, and dump the other into steel is what I would do. He's going to be heading into some solar condensers, though. Thought about the silicon
I like the
changed
silicon. Now he's going for an aluminum.
Interesting.
Yeah, if he can get up to HQ, I mean, that's definitely a long-term play. If he can get up to HQ3 fast enough, and so he can claim that silicon, because nobody else is interested in that silicon just yet, although Yerand was the first to HQ3 while we were debating what Andreas should do. Not moving into the silicon either, so far that bet is playing out okay for Andreas.
One thing I will mention while we talk about this, silicon is relatively limited on the map. I mean, there are a few patches of it, but most of them are low, as we were saying. There are, however, core samples available, and there's definitely core sampleable territory for silicon. I mean, we've got sand out here, of course, most likely to hit silicon, and then being adjacent to a resource also increases that likelihood. There are plenty of tiles adjacent to silicon and nothing else this game. So maybe you're just not in that much of a hurry, assuming you can get to a core sample eventually to pick it on up. On top of that, it's machine shops at the colony, not warehouses, so silicon just a slightly less important resource than it could be in other games.
Yeah, it's definitely understandable not to pick up that silicon on HQ2 after you take a full stock of the situation. Blues and Pollina both HQ level 3, and then immediately Yerand at HQ level 4, outpacing Andreas by 2 HQs at this point. Andreas still needs another 7k to upgrade.
Ouch. Not a simple thing. If he rearranged his resources a little bit, if he sold out of this carbon in particular, I think he just about gets there, very, very close to it. But
yeah, because
he's going to want to get that done.
He does have 28k in the bank, and it is 27k to upgrade, so has enough resources to do it, just needs to sell out. High aluminum for
I'm genuinely surprised.
14k.
That's expensive. And aluminum, we weren't exactly short on aluminum this game. I mean, everybody's got a high, and Blues had access to a lot more that he used for a moment before swapping them into water pumps, which they've been ever since. So I'm honestly surprised. 14K for that. That feels like a lot. It feels like that's just going to be a solar panel. Wind turbine. Close enough.
An expansive HQ has been upgraded.
All right, HQ3 for Andreas. He is catching up a little bit. I will give to Andreas. Of course, he is expansive, him and Pollina both. So it's expected they're going to run behind a little bit, come back into things in the late game.
The one thing that Blues will have to be happy about, complaining a little bit about getting identified last game, is he's not the scavenger in the lead.
No, I mean,
that would be Yerand. Yerand's the most likely out of the two scavengers to get a rain of black market coming down, and to be honest, I'm surprised it took that long for the rain of black market to actually begin, but that was well timed on those wind turbines with this dust storm.
This feels very problematic for Yerand. I mean, not only were these the tiles that he was trying to get into for wind power, so he wouldn't fall into a bunch of debt during this dust storm and all this other stuff that's going on, they were his carbon tiles that he had swapped out of, and carbon's now $124. I mean, everybody was trying to get into wind turbines. Nobody had a real stockpile. That's a bit unfortunate, to say the least, for Yerand. It's going to be slowing him down a lot if he's trying to push up to HQ5.
Blues not going to earn any power either. Pollina just, well, okay, so that was actually Andreas bouncing a circuit overload on Pollina's, and then Yerand going on to Andreas's power. So Pollina's the only one with positive power right now, thanks to that one, is it just the one geotherm?
Two geotherms.
There's the other one. Both
yep,
which
they're doing good work.
So everybody else is just going to
gonna be sad is what they're gonna do.
Yeah, they are going to be sad.
Blue's making the right move. He swapped into some farms rather than leaving his power online. Yerand, of course, was power surged and so couldn't make the adjustment. Pollina now gonna get circuit overloaded as well. All of that said, AndreasG, he does still have his two wind turbines up at the top of the map. One of them gets blown up. The other still functional though, leaving him positive on power and making money from it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty good. And then we were just complaining about the black market not flying, and there's now more black market raining down than either of us can keep track of.
That's very true. Pollina also going to choose not to get aggressive with one hit, picks up a couple of core samples, maybe looking at the carbon price, maybe thinking, all right, silicon's a little limited, maybe I'll see if I can find some, but either way, just goes ahead and uses a core sample for that future development. Yerand in D-debt, that's what we were talking about.
Got out of the wind turbines, back into the carbon elemental quarries.
I do want to point out, power is still absurd in climbing.
Yeah, I was going to say, could swap out some of these solar condensers for some solar panels. I would definitely be thinking about that. Sure, the silicon price makes them a little bit expensive, only 5.7, or you could get an upgrade and put
still
down
be in D-debt.
What I'm going to presume is some solar panels. Blues also struggling in D-debt, also doesn't have any power up, but does have superconductor, is going to put back those wind turbines. So those are going to be a nice big target. Yeah, who are we looking at? Yerand, ouch, 55K. Now Blues went from D to D plus 2, so his probably was only 40 something.
Yeah, probably more like 40-ish for Blues, maybe. Oh boy, but still, that's painful. And did somebody short power? Man, Blues has the hacker array down. Nobody else does at this point. I doubt he would have been shorting power right now, though.
Well, we can check. The answer is no. That's a natural shortage. He's shorting electronics.
That's very painful for a natural shortage right now. In some ways, circuit overloads, of course, still available. AndreasG needs to be using them. In my opinion,
making bank off of his power right now, and he has his power in 3 different locations right now.
Yeah, just 3 different pairs of wind turbines. Very difficult to get aggressive against that.
Yeah, 3 people would need to gang up on him. That said, he is behind Blues in terms of cash on hand, but that will change once this power starts going through. Yerand is
Tired of seeing profits fly by?
I mean,
not
Yerand
On a
even.
magnetic storm.
is in a huge amount of debt, has a very low stock price, wanted to get all of his stock bought up while that was the case before anybody else got this cheap stock. But of course, that turned everybody's attention his way, and Andreas, he is going to get at least one of them for now.
So,
Yeah, but I was going to say that even though with the 2 wind turbines up, he's not paying off any of that debt. It's still increasing.
Yep, not positive on power. Definitely problematic.
Pollina almost paid through her power.
Now, I will say a big source of that is going to be this pleasure dome, leaking 1 a second. Still a very worthwhile pleasure dome, though. 3 adjacency on that, 379 is what it's pulling in per second. Blues has managed to get out of D debt. He's back into C, so things are looking a little bit better for him. Where is, let's see, we've got 2 solar panels down with superconductor, so that's definitely what's been helping Blues out at this point.
AndreasG riding that power gravy train up to 166k cash plus resources. HQ4 has the upgrade to HQ5 whenever he desires, but is a little bit indecisive, having bought into Yerand with 2.
I mean, he's
pits of
not going to
stock.
finish off Yerand.
a scavenger HQ
Most
has
likely
been
not,
upgraded.
no. So he should take the upgrade, especially with Blues upgrading. And he does. But he's in a good place to potentially finish that buy on Yerand.
Yeah, he's potentially in a really good spot from here. I mean, Yerand has almost no cash. He has 3 of his own stock purchased, but 2 owned by Andreas. So Andreas is feeling pretty good about that. Yerand is having to pay down a ton of debt, which he has been doing, but still in 170,000 after the interest tick. Didn't spot how much that interest tick was, but things are still not looking good for Yerand at all. That debt just overwhelming him pretty effectively. Needed to be more aggressive about moving into that power. These electrolysis reactors in particular have been offensive for quite a long time now.
So remember when I was saying it'd be good to move into silicon? Look at that price.
It's gotten up there. Andreas did eventually get the high, but unfortunately for him, Blues took the medium next to it.
Teleportation, so won't be worried about shipping it all. And slant drilling, so we'll be mining off of a high right there. Andreas is going to go ahead and secure his stock. Not
Alright, couple
entirely
core samples.
sure about that. I would like to see some investment into the long term from Andreas. I mean, glass, electronics, chems,
Let the bidding begin.
all really high prices that you could be optimizing, which Blues is doing, as is on Yerand in chems, and Pollina's just starting. She optimized food first.
Yeah, I do want to see those long-term commitments out of AndreasG. I was also honestly a bit surprised that he's purchased as much of his stock as he has. This does help keep Blues or Pollina from getting too involved in this whole fight that he started with Yerand already, but honestly, if Yerand's the one who picks up those stock, AndreasG would still be in a pretty solid position just because of the sheer amount of cash that he has to go ahead and overwhelm Yerand, buy him, and get all that stock back. 670 on the Pleasure Dome. Somebody do something about this.
Yeah, Yerand has paid all the way back into C debt, so he's relevant again. There goes the
Thank
Pleasure
you.
Dome by Blues.
I mean, it's a start, but does anybody have an extra claim right now? I don't see one for anyone. There's no way to get an additional claim unless the game just auctions one out. If it auctions off a Pleasure Dome, well, that'll be great for everyone else. But for now, Yerand virtually uncontested in this insane market. I mean, that's an off-world market building right there, easily.
Yeah.
That is a solid off-world market that he's got.
Yes, it is, and especially if you look at the off-world prices, they're not very good.
Pirates.
No. I mean, you're looking at aluminum launches. How often can you say that? That's not really where you want to be in this game.
Yeah,
but
that would die pretty quick because the off-world price is only $360.
Optimization routine
Yeah.
successful.
Not to mention the hacks that Blues keeps on, doing on these electronics.
I wonder what goes on in there.
yeah, certainly Blue's trying to get some work done with that. He and Yerand continue to just struggle with debt this game. Part of the problem was by the time they had actually managed to pay down their debt, of course, power has gotten very, very cheap. It's $7, now $10, but regardless, very, very low. And so they have to keep combating these interest ticks, because even at C, 20%, all right, interest just knocks you straight down to D again. You're locked out of the black market again. And it's very difficult for them to find a way to actually pay off enough debt to get to a comfortable position. And you can see that's been quite painful for them this game.
So Andreas is definitely in the driver's seat in this game right now. 5 of Yerand's shares purchased, only 1 share bought in him, and only 30k and decreasing behind Yerand in the terms of cash on hand.
It's nice. He's doing well, doing very well for himself. Also has an optimization center.
Few too many advanced buildings for a scavenger with 4.
Yeah, Blues has a lot of buildings put up this game that are not actually making money at the moment, right? That's a huge, obviously some of them are frozen, and so that definitely is not helping him at all. But I think you're right. 4 buildings out of your base 18. He kicks up to 19 with his extra claim from founding late. But still, you don't even have 20 tiles at that point. If that's all you're counting, you don't even have 20 tiles. And you're going to commit 4 of them, 4 of your 20, to not making money? That's a bold decision.
Yes. Now, what I'm not certain of as we're watching this game is why Pollina is lagging Andreas so much. I mean, part of it is that power that Andreas made, and he made a lot of power money, but that's not the whole story. And I'm not entirely sure what the rest of that story is, as we've been bouncing around looking at everybody instead of just focusing on one player.
Well, I think you're right that power has played a big role in it. Can't discount that, because it's a big part of why he was able to secure his own stock and start on Yerand. That was a very, very big deal. Silicon, I think, has also probably played a significant role in the matter. I mean, Pollina does have some Silicon income now, but not much, just the 1 low tile. And on top of that, Pollina was getting hit by black market a little bit. Circuit overloads on the geotherms, things like that was a little bit impactful. But of course, Andreas, he's got that high Silicon, he's got the adjacency. Those are making big money right now. I mean, together, they're managing to almost match Yerand's Pleasure Dome. Well, not anymore. Now it's got 4 adjacency, but
everybody else finally realizing that Andreas is the one to be worried about, not this little unnecessary black market war between Blues and Yerand. And so now he's going to get hit a lot, but it looks like it might be too little too late, as Andreas is already 83% of the way on the buy on Yerand. However, Blues has managed to hack his way into an impressive stockpile of cash.
Yeah, he's got money. That's for sure. And with money, you can pick up a nice Pollina, potentially, and try and fight back against AndreasG. AndreasG has not committed into, as we discussed earlier, a whole lot of late game advantages. In fact, all he's got in terms of optimizations is one little glass finished so far.
Now Blues
certainly beneficial, but
4
not great.
optimization centers. What does he think he is, an elite?
Feels excessive. I mean, he's got perfect electronics production. That seems to be helping out quite a lot. 370 per tile there. That's great. But you can also see that a lot of these... Okay, never mind. What are we doing, Blues? What are we doing? Are we just taking the money?
Yerand's going to make the buy. Whoa. Blues is almost on the buy on Andreas.
And he gets it.
Wasn't paying attention.
That's scrap, though.
Yeah, that Andreas's comment basically sums up that end of the game for him right there. The scrap by Blues with nanotech to make the buy. Yerand getting enough money to get into Andreas, and Andreas's lead all of a sudden gone in an instant.
I mean, he could have bought Yerand, I'm pretty sure.
He was at 100 for at least 5 seconds before that happened.
For a little while, yeah. I mean, scrapping out of those optimization centers. That was a moment. All right, well, the game's totally different now.
Yep, we were talking about Andreas being in a very good position, and now we're talking about Blues being in a very good position.
Well, I mean, Andreas had a bunch of advantages and a lot of them were wrapped up in the stock market, whereas Blues was just sitting around like, I'm just going to make some paper. Oh, look, I got a buy out of it. Fantastic for me. Him and Yerand teaming up to take down AndreasG. That's interesting. You don't see that very often, but now I'd be a little bit concerned Well, frankly, I'm worried if I'm anybody at this game at this point, because I don't know what's going on. The game has gotten really, really weird. Pollina has no debt. Blues has a lot. Yerand has almost none. Yerand has this stupid pleasure dome, making all kinds of money. Blues has stock distributed through Pollina and Yerand. Pollina is going to be the first one to get aggressive here. If I'm Blues, am I looking to just sell out of Yerand, pick up as much Pollina as I can, and fight on through? What are we looking to do here?
So Pollina been hacking power because she's making 3K a second in pure cash off of power.
Mm-hmm.
So that's quite well for Pollina. Pollina's buying into Blues. Blues was buying to Yerand, but now maybe thinking differently about it.
Well, he didn't buy into Yerand. That was left over from the AndreasG purchase. So he could just take that back and have it be, all right, here's some money I made out of my purchase. Circuit Overload, that's going to be a useful tool right now against Pollina.
Yes, it is. Only knocks her down to 1.4k power a second. Part of that is because of the
dirty rat trying to break our stuff.
Decrease in power price. Yerand attempting to knock down one of Pollina's other geotherms, but that was defended all the way since the beginning of the game.
Yeah, definitely would have liked to seen that immediately thrown back at Blues, of course. Only 3 wind turbines, but Superconductor doing some serious work and allowing him to pay down his debt, something Pollina desperately would have wanted to avoid, especially because it looks like Yerand and Blues are kind of teaming up against Pollina here. It's a very strange game, and AndreasG has got an off-world market up.
Yeah, and they're going to be splitting that evenly, so we once again might have Yerand and Blues split a player for the benefit of them both, just to keep themselves in the game. It looks like... Yeah. Okay, so Yerand needs, what is that, 633k. Blues needs 586k, could get 100k of that by selling out of Yerand, and Pollina needs 578k to buy into Blues. Yerand and Pollina we're just about even in the percentages for buying out Pollina and Blues respectively, if you could keep track of that sentence.
Keeping up with you. We're good.
So, yeah, we have quite the interesting stock battle here at the end. Pollina says enough of that off-world market, blows it up. And Andreas says, no more power money for you, Pollina. Look at that solar farm.
Oh yeah, he built an absolutely ridiculous solar farm.
That's enough solar panels to ship money back to Earth. Power back to Earth,
yeah,
I mean.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, and the solar flare is coming down on top of that. So power is solidly at $1 right now. Not something Pollina's going to be happy about, of course, because Pollina has 3 geothermal plants positioned. Meanwhile, Blues and Yerand can rotate their power very effectively. They should do that. Mm-hmm. Blues in particular, with that nanotech being a little bit lax about these things, but he seems to be struggling to find a market he's comfortable in. Finally going to choose glass, as AndreasG will be knocking that silicon price down that he blew up 2 minutes ago.
So both Blues and Yerand have pulled way ahead of Pollina in terms of cash on hand.
Yeah, Yerand in particular threatening this buy on Pollina very, very soon. Pollina's still 150,000 away from taking down Blues. So Yerand he's got it now.
Now, if he wants it, and if he does take that buy, that will put him ahead of Blues.
I love it.
In terms of stock subsidiaries that he owns. But Blues has an awful lot. Why is there a circuit overload?
That's a good question. But then why would we target Blues with the circuit overload? I'm not sure. Maybe it's just the death throw. I want to do something because I'm about to get knocked out of this game. I can understand that absolutely. All right, things have calmed down a little bit. Pollina's out of the game. Yerand gets the knockout. He picks up 2 claims from that. It's a lot of stock. Stock is settling down though. So Blues with an advantage at this moment, it would appear. A little bit more cash, has 1 more stock purchased than Yerand does. That said, Yerand has a little bit more stock in the subsidiaries for the moment. The valuable one evenly split. Pollina, a little bit less valuable, but still an advantage to Yerand and an advantage in price to Yerand because of that.
They do need roughly the same amount of money to purchase each other out, roughly 740k each. Although actually Yerand's up to 80k now, 800k now. So Yerand is a little bit of a hill to climb, so can he make that up with these extra stocks in Pollina? That it will be the question, and the extra, no, he should have tied Blues in terms of claims. Blues still needs moves out of those wind turbines. They're not really doing anything for him.
Yeah, the wind turbines from Blues, definitely not a great thing right now in a lot of ways. They could be making him a lot more money than they currently are, which is basically none. The Pleasure Dome from Yerand, still uncontested. I'm actually quite surprised that Blues did not use one of his 2 claims quite a long time ago when he got that buy into AndreasG to move into a Pleasure Dome of his own, at least cut into those profits. And it's going to be a good tile besides, so definitely a strange move out of Blues there, in my opinion. Blues, though, look at all this cash he's making. Yerand's just struggling to keep up. I think this is our optimizations really kicking into overdrive at this point. Yerand has a ton, but doesn't seem to be making as much money off of them as just the basic, potentially, electronics and glass that Blues has available. Very interesting indeed. Blues just about ready to wrap this one up. Only needs about 100,000 more.
Yeah, Yerand probably... So Blues, we were talking about the ridiculous amount of optimization centers that Blues had, but Blues was focused in his optimizations, and fortunately for him, the game has remained in a state that those electronics and glass are still making him lots of money, versus Yerand might have overspent on optimizations, going for 3 in, what is that, 7, 9, 8, a lot.
Look, yeah, he's got
8.
3 and 8 different things, and then one little bit of carbon. I am angry at you, Blues, says AndreasG. Well, should have bought Yerand's. All I can say about that. It's a good victory to Blues. You don't see a game like that very often, so certainly an interesting Martian game. I thought you were Pollina.
This was one of the more... If we didn't have that game on Thursday, this would have been one of the more entertaining Martian games that have casted in a long time, but
it was certainly an interesting one. I think, I mean,
interesting.
Star of that game, in my opinion, Nanotech, let's be honest.
Yeah, Nanotech allowing Blues to get that little edge that he needed and take out Andreas before Andreas could take out Yerand.
And that was definitely part of it, but I think another potentially big part of it is if we go to the buildings tab, this is what I was really looking at. We have you don't go to this tab often, right? Because usually it doesn't say a whole lot about this game, but 35 for Andreas, 37 for Pollina, 43 for Yerand, 90 for Blues. Let's be honest, Nanotech let Blues do some ridiculous things in terms of responding to the market and not being punished by the carbon price that was just going up and down all game long. And I think Yerand was a little more stuck in his markets to some degree. I mean, at the end of the game, we see that he's got, for example, these chem refineries down. He had to transition back into carbon so he could potentially move his buildings about. And it caused problems that Blues didn't have to deal with this game.
Now, I'd like to point out that single Pleasure Dome, Yerand, $695,000.
Look. That's why Yerand was Yerand that game.
That's why Yerand was relevant. One single tile.
That Blues Electronics money, though. I mean, he did a good job. This is kind of what we were talking about that potentially Tudeback should have been doing the game before in a very similar situation. They were both scavengers, and both games had machine shops. Electronics was getting pricey in both games. Other people weren't in electronics in both games for the most part, but Blues committed. I mean, he went all out on that. Perfect electronics optimizations. And if we go over to productions and sales for Blues, 2 electronic shortages to go along with them. He was trying to make that work, and it panned out well for him. That is a lot of money to make on one resource.
Yes, it is. That is a lot of money over there from Blues.
I was looking at power. Blues managed to sell and buy almost the exact same amount of power that game.
Yeah.
Impressive. Pollina having to buy 395,000 steel. I think we can maybe see where some of her slowdown was. And a lot of that probably had to do with, I do not like going for geotherms when steel started at $120, frankly.
She was
I
in what,
can't
3
get behind it.
geotherms? I mean, it did.
Yeah.
It did make her 361k power of that, which would be 330 profit.
It did fine. But I do wonder if you had committed that steel elsewhere initially. Steel was so valuable to sell early on. Did those geotherms slow you down enough to